So we're going to obviously stick to the youth vote in a national context and focus on the anticipation of the election among young people. One aspect of youth engagement and connectedness is technology. And I wonder if you feel like this year the candidates via social media, whether SMS, text messages, if you feel like the candidates are reaching you on a daily basis, or do you feel like perhaps a larger share of the electorate, you're getting the news from a newspaper cover story that you glimpse at in between classes, or a 6 o'clock segment of the local or national news? Or do you feel like it builds up and one of the campaigns or both of the campaigns are harnessing advertising and technology in a way that on social media and in other mediums you're getting a very healthy and constant dose of that? No, sorry, I've been quiet.
Thank you. I think particularly the Obama campaign can be commended for their effort to reach out to the youth through social media. Recently, the Obama campaign did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, which is a site that's main demographic is people from 16 to 24. And they started a Tumblr, which is a type of blog that is also targeted by people from 16 to 24. And they're sort of these secluded sites, but they have a very strong community, both of them. And it's a way for the candidate to just be more personable, to seem like a real person, to extend their views, to have interactions with real potential voters. And I think that's a good way to reach young voters, and that's an exceptional way to make people who are more reluctant about voting passionate about it.
I completely agree. If you're asking for a specific candidate on which one has engaged the population greater, I feel that the Obama campaign has definitely, and even in the last 4 years, not that many people know this, but Obama has a weekly address that's videotaped and posted on YouTube as well as his website. And every week there's a message, there is a conversation, there's something going on, and anyone and everyone can watch it. People can ask questions, people can email their concerns, or anything it may be. And exactly how she mentioned before, people are using social networks now because that's the next best thing. It's not just something for college kids to connect to each other with, or to find your old friends or new friends. It's a way for everyone to connect and bring all resources, all global resources and news together. And I think it's a great thing that they're using this to bring together information for politics.
And how do you think, for example, I don't want to interrupt you. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, I find it helpful that the Obama campaign has sort of utilized these techniques to personalize and sort of keep you up to date on the previous debates, or they'll sort of keep you in touch about what's going on in their campaign, so voters don't feel overwhelmed at the end by certain issues. They're sort of at the same page of what's going on, when it's happening, and then they can sort of make the decisions as they're going, as opposed to just making them at the end.
Speaking of decisions, and let me direct this at both of you to my left, do you find that most young people on this campus have already made up their minds as to who they're voting for?
I would say, if I had to kind of arrive at a number or percentage of how many students have made up their minds, I'd say about 75 to 80% of students have made up their mind for who they're going to vote for. And the last either 25 to 20% either will stay out the election or they will make up their mind the day of the election. But the number of students who are undecided is pretty much set at this point. There's not much fluidity in what's going on there.
One of the things that the Obama campaign seemed to exploit in terms of social media was the 47% remark of the Republican candidate. And for those of you in the audience who may not be familiar with that, or the depth of its impact, in a closed private fundraiser, the Governor Romney made a comment about not being concerned that that block of the electorate, because they're a shoo-in for the Democrat. When he referred to the 47%, it's not clear if those were taxpayers or not taxpayers or people who received government assistance, because he didn't exactly specify how he arrived at that number. But it seems like the Obama campaign, and with the media's help, broadcast that, that implication that the governor really doesn't care about people who might be on some form of government assistance. And being on one of the UC campuses, I wonder how much that particular notion resonated. There was a story in a Michigan State newspaper, for instance, in which a young student wrote that we are the 47%, and that figure is actually understated. It's much more significant in terms of who the governor is talking about. So I don't know if one of you wants to jump in on the 47% and that the impact on specifically young voters.
Well, I think the student who was writing in from Michigan State is absolutely correct, because young voters, one, they usually don't pay taxes, and two, they are usually receiving aid if they're going to a public university like the UC. I think about 80% of UC Irvine students receive some sort of financial aid from the state or from the federal government. And so for most students to hear a remark like that, it's discouraging, because it's not promoting the growth of the youth. It's not promoting the youth become independent from their crippling debt. It's not promoting any sort of movement at all. It's just dismissing students. It's dismissing the elderly. It's dismissing probably the students' parents and the people they know. So for students, they might feel like they were just given up on by the Romney campaign. And it indicates that a future Romney presidency might not do anything for students whatsoever.
I also like to add that the 47% remark kind of presents Governor Romney as there's a perception among a large swath of the electorate that Governor Romney is out of touch with the issues that people face on a regular basis, people who are not rich like he is. And this remark serves to reinforce the position that Governor Romney only serves the interests of the so-called 1%, people who have done exceedingly well under even the harsh economic conditions of the last 4 or 5 years. And it serves also to highlight to a lot of people that, like Sana said, under a Romney presidency, we'd see policies that would continue the shift in wealth from the middle class and the lower class to the upper class, who don't necessarily need an additional boost in income.
And his comment also sort of pits individuals in this country against each other. It creates this bifurcated, dichotomous relationship where it's sort of one segment of the country against the other segment. And I think that this brings me back to just last week when Larry Pressler, a Republican who had voted Republican, he's a Vietnam War veteran, and he decided to vote for Obama in 2008 because he felt that the Republicans were moving towards extreme party ideology and putting that as a priority over national interest. And so sort of this division of the country is what I think is preventing any unification or any sort of bipartisanship or collaboration between the parties.
I completely agree. In fact, one of the things that whenever I'm in a discussion or any sort of argument about this, I never understand where these arbitrary numbers come from. The 1% versus 99%, or the 47%, which is not even really 47%. It's really 63 or 64 or something like that percentage. If you look it up, which are you actually looking it up now? But here's the thing. Politics, I mean, there used to be honor among candidates, and sure, that still exists now in a lot of cases, but now it seems that there really isn't that much honor in politics at all, especially in the most recent elections, whether that's presidential or any other posting for that matter. People try to pick at every little thing a candidate may say in a debate or in a statement, and then try to pit everyone against them. not because it was wrong, but because they're using that as a way to show that the other person is weaker, not as a politician, but as anything else, as everything else. And that is a problem in politics right now. They're using little minute details that sure have portray a great importance, but the point is that they're using that to pit everyone else against each other. And not that many people are really knowledgeable about what is going on. If you look at what happened 4 years ago, there was a video segment. I forgot which person was responsible for creating this, but they went in different parts of New York and all over the country, and he says, "Who are you voting for? Are you for the Obama-Palin party?" And people were saying, "Yeah, I'm definitely for Obama and Palin. They really offset each other really well." Clearly, they don't know. They weren't really sure what was going on in the election at all. Otherwise, they would have seen that they were being tricked there to see if they really know anything or are just taking in whatever everyone else is saying. And I find that that's going on right now as well. People are just pitting each other against one another for their own gains.